Alright everyone, the sour grape Democrats are whining again, trying to invoke Section 4 of the 25th Amendment to declare Trump unfit for office. See, they realize it has finally dawned on the Democratic Party that there either was no Russian collusion involving Trump and they can't impeach him for it, or even if there was, they're never going to find evidence of it, and they've lost faith in, what's his name, Mueller, however you pronounce it. They realize they're not going to get their chance to impeach Donald Trump and remove him from office. Even if they, by the way, impeached him, are they going to have the votes to remove anyway? No, it's not going to happen. So their new trick up their sleeve is to try to simply declare him unfit for office due to incapacitation and have Mike Pence running the show, I guess, for the next few years. What do you think would happen if you were successful, number one? And number two, do you think you'll be successful? We'll answer number two first. You're not going to be successful, because the GOP is not going to agree with your summation that he's unfit for office. You simply would never have the votes for such a thing, for such an endeavor. Trump is capable of walking upright, talking more or less coherently, compared to Bush, very coherent, has no obvious health issues, and just enjoys memeing on the internet. The problem is that tens of millions of other Americans do the same thing on a daily basis. He posted a funny video online in which he chastises CNN. People act like it's the end of the world, but the average person probably isn't outraged at that, and in fact a lot of the people feigning outrage for partisan reasons probably don't even care. They just don't like Trump. Let's be honest here. A lot of Democrats don't have a problem with him memeing on Twitter. They simply don't like Trump because of some imaginary policy they believe that he's concocted. They simply presume that he's bigoted, or they presume that he's going to start World War III without any actual evidence, so they don't like the dude. Otherwise, they don't really care about the Twitter stuff. They just, they see it as evidence of madness. But the thing is, you can't arbitrarily rule that somebody is insane unless you have enough legal recourse to do so. And so the Democrats will fail once again. They will probably damage their chances in the midterms if they officiate this and make it more than just a pipe dream. Right now it's a handful of Democrats, and it's primarily being spoken of online. But if it goes to the next step, where it's being widely reported on for a long period and sort of supplants, I guess this is their way of supplanting the Russia stuff. They realize that they're not going to nail him to the wall on Russia, so they have to move to the next step and just simply say, oh, but he's crazy. It's just, it's not going to work. The American voters aren't going to stand for it. Even people who didn't vote for Trump, who don't really like him, if they have any sanity at all, are going to realize it's not evidence of psychological imbalance for a person to post something on the internet. He didn't start a war. It didn't raise anybody's taxes. Nobody gives a hot shit that he posted this video, this little video clip with CNN superimposed on the dude he's pretending to beat up on. You could say it was a tongue-in-cheek statement about the fake news and the theatrics of politics. Nobody appears to even have noticed that fact. Remember the time they impeached Bill Clinton and his popularity rose and nothing happened? And he coasted through the rest of his presidency without a mutter from his enemies on the other side of the aisle within Congress because he had hoodwinked them all? Remember when that happened? Did the Democrats really want to turn Donald Trump into a post-Monica Lewinsky Bill Clinton, on steroids? Because they could end up doing that. You look at his approval polls now, yeah, they're mediocre. They could rise. It could be above 50% in all the polls if you fail to actually declare him unfit for office. At some point, you're going to begin to look like bullies. Because we already know that Trump, he insults people and says off-the-wall things sometimes. He's been doing this for a long time. Not evidence of psychological imbalance, evidence of his personality as a tycoon. It's because he's from the private sector. He wasn't trained up in the normal elocution of politics. That is, again, you stand there, you're kind of boring and very dry with the occasional joke so that people keep listening to you. He wasn't raised up in that. He was raised up in a boardroom where he screams at people. That's his style of governance. And we've had presidents like that before. The mild-mannered presidency is a fairly new concept. The concept that presidents should be mild-mannered, shouldn't get hot under the collar or outraged, or that they shouldn't insult people when they deserve it. That's a new fixture of globalist politics from the last couple decades. That's like post-Gipper politics. Before that, you have people that repeatedly chastise elements. Bill Clinton did this. You remember in numerous interviews, Bill Clinton would get really, really mad at people who were interviewing them if they hardballed him at all. And he would run them down. He'd spend 5 minutes essentially telling them why they were a moron. And that's like the pre-Obama messiah of the entire Democratic complex. So you're going to tell me that Trump deciding to take that basic same formula and export it to Twitter is evidence of a psychological imbalance? It's not going to work. I'm not going to be able to remove him from office or declare him unfit so that Pence governs. And by the way, would you really want Mike Pence running the fucking country? I think that a lot of Democrats would rather Trump be in there. They'll take up the same line they did during the election. They said, Trump is screwy, therefore he can't win. So we're glad that he's at the forefront because he's beating on the other Republican candidates. And if he does win, he can't beat Hillary Clinton. Don't count him out. I think you'd rather deal with bombastic Trump, who is essentially a centrist in many ways. Steve Bannon, one of his higher-ups, is declaring the intent to restructure the tax code to tax the wealthy more. And you're worried about him being nuts? He wants to give tax relief to the working and middle class on the backs of the super wealthy and make multinational corporations actually pay taxes. And you think that he's far right? He's not far right. He's a centrist. He's like a former Democrat. When you try to say, well, he's nuts, you're saying that a person who was a Democrat, a New York business Democrat for most of his life, is fucking unbalanced. Now, the business Democrats, the Trump tycoon class, are the only Democrats that have sense, that are still sane. They're a dying breed. That's why he's doing a fairly good job. If he gets his tax reform, it'll be a great job. That puts him up to a 6 out of 10 presidency right there in my book, and it'll probably shoot him sky high with even a lot of the GOP members. And all those business Democrats that are like, oh, I don't know if I really support Trump, all of a sudden they'll be on board for 2020. The Democrats are toothless, and if you go into the midterms without having done anything substantial or said anything substantial other than we want to impeach him or declare him unfit for office, if that's your platform going into the midterms, you're going to get hammered and you'll have even less legislative support. Right now, you already lack power. You'll lose a few Senate seats. You'll lose some more House seats. You'll probably lose a couple more governorships. You'll begin to become a minor party within the United States. At no time in recent history, as far as I know, have either of the parties ever been at such a grave disadvantage as the Democrats could be in if they don't develop an actual... If they're not willing to work with Trump, try to get something done, try to negotiate with the negotiator-in-chief, what's the point of having any Democrats in Congress? You might as well just elect all Republicans. At least they'll do something. You would have more wide-reaching disagreements on policy with Trump at the helm within the GOP if it had 100% of Senate and House seats than with the Democrats who just sit there and do nothing. The GOP are the ones that are trying to negotiate amongst themselves as to what form taxes or foreign policy should take dealing with Trump. The Democrats just sit there. They haven't said anything about these things. They just say, we want to declare him unfit for office. 25th Amendment, it trends on Twitter. It's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream. Don't hold your breath. It's not going to happen. It's my official prediction, and it's never going to happen. That's about all. Peace out.